The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Frankly Speaking. I'm your host today, Frank Zabarick, and in the famous words of that famous comedian, Steve Harvey, on that great show, Family Feud, we got another good one for you, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I've already had, just about all the Republicans from the District 2, in the District 2 Congressional District in New Hampshire, which covers the city of Nashua. I've already had all them except for my next guest, and he comes with a strange angle on this particular candidacy. His name is, you may or may not have heard of him, Jason Riddle. And he's probably more so than his candidacy in this coming election is the fact that he was kind of involved in something called the January 6th insurrection of last year. But anyway, before I got a ton of questions about the insurrection and what issues you stand for in this particular election. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so before we get into all that, the meat and potatoes of this interview, why don't you tell my TV audience a little bit about yourself and why exactly you want to become a U.S. Congressman from the 2nd District in New Hampshire?
Okay, well, name's Jason Riddle. I'm 34 years old. I live in Keene, New Hampshire. I'm a veteran of the Navy and the Army Reserves. I'd just left the post office a few weeks before January 6th, joined a couple friends, road trip down to D.C., and then we all know what happened there. Found myself catapulted into politics, and I decided I was going to fight back a little bit, and that's why I'm decided to run for the House 2nd District. And,
okay. So I'm going by, I guess, my first acquaintance that I had of you, getting to learn a little bit about Jason Riddle. I was going on YouTube. I YouTubed Jason Riddle and NH. And then going from there to see what postings they had of you. And I guess you had a thing with a young lady, a correspondent from NBC Boston named Catherine Underwood. And I guess you did Skype interviews with her. One in February of last year, 2021. It was just like a month afterwards. First of all, how did the FBI catch up to you? Did they see your postings on Facebook?
According to the documentation, there's plenty of people that reported me, and also they watched the interview. They showed up at my house about 2 weeks after.
Oh, 2 weeks after the first Catherine Underwood interview?
After January 6th.
Oh, after January 6th?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But you weren't taken off in handcuffs or anything like that, or were you?
Nope. They just came in and we just talked. And they asked me a lot of questions. They were very friendly.
Oh, okay.
And I made the mistake. I didn't call a lawyer. So that's, everyone, you watch TV and you watch people talk to the cops without lawyers and you're like, what an idiot. They need to talk to a lawyer. But when push came to shove, I ended up doing the same thing. I let him in. And I mean, everything was on social media. Everything was in the media. I had already interviewed. Everything was out there. There was nothing I can possibly hide. So I think I probably should have, looking back, should have still had a lawyer with me. But I mean, they already had everything they needed. And it might have helped with my sentencing. I'm not sure. The fact that I've cooperated and was honest during my interview with them.
When on the first interview that came out in February of within a month after January 6th, you had mentioned, well, you both had mentioned, Catherine Underwood and yourself, that you were going to be a candidate to run for county commissioner in the county in Keene, New Hampshire. And then in the second video they showed of you, which was June of the same year, 2021, you and Catherine Underwood were talking about running for U.S. Congressman and in this year, 2022. What exactly happened to your campaign as a county commissioner?
So I'd run for county commissioner. I forget the exact year. It was 2018, I think.
All right.
And I had gotten hired at the post office. Unbeknownst to me, you cannot run for federal office and hold a federal job at the same time. Not federal office. Have a federal job and run for any political position at the same time due to the Hatch Act.
Yeah.
And that's why I dropped out of the county commissioner race. And that's what Catherine and I were talking about when we came up with the idea to run for Congress.
Oh, okay. So even though you were out, I think she had mentioned in the February interview that you were already quit your job to run for county commissioner. So did you just not run for it, not even pull papers?
No, so I had left. I dropped out of the race to work for the post office.
In 2021?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the county commissioner. No, I never ran for county commissioner after that.
Oh, okay. Because I thought the talk was between you and her that you were planning on pulling papers in 2021 to run for county commissioner.
No, we talked about a lot, and we talked about state rep, talked about county commissioner, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time, so it was more of just a brainstorming session that they took a video and put it out there and had fun with it, and but it ended up deciding to run for Congress.
Oh, okay. That's why in June, there was zero mention at all about your county commissioner stint or experience, whatever. And you guys started talking about your upcoming run for Congress. And I guess that's where you got caught up. You pulled the papers. I don't know if you pulled the papers at that point in June, but that's where Catherine Underwood caught you up. That Ann Custer was a U.S. Congresswoman,
she's not a state rep.
Not a state rep.
It was a brainstorming session. We were brainstorming. We were going over who's what and what to do, and that's it was actually we could thank Catherine Underwood for me running. It's more or less her idea.
Okay, and then soon afterwards, both Brian Williams of MSNBC and your favorite comedian of all time, Stephen Colbert, took shots at you.
I know, I'm honored too. I'm actually a big Stephen Colbert fan. I loved him in high school. So, even though I'm his target at the moment, it's still kind of flattering. And I tried reaching out to him and connecting to him, and I couldn't find a way. So that's where I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring him up at my sentencing. And I did, and it worked. And he ended up responding. It was great. My lawyer was really against the idea, but I noticed that's when all the people involved in the riot were.
When you brought him up at your sentencing, were you talking to a reporter or reporters at the time, or were you testifying in court itself?
I was talking to the judge.
Okay, that's kind of odd that, so in your hearing, you had no jury there whatsoever. It was just the judge that gave you the 90 days.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, wow. Now, I think we talked about this before, like a day or two ago. You understand how some people watching this, I guess your whole shtick on what exactly happened on January 6th to yourself is you kind of went in with the crowd. You went into, I presume, a senator's office.
The Senate parliamentary office.
the Senate parliamentary office. You found like a mini fridge or a wine rack or something like that,
Yes.
and took a bottle and poured yourself a glass.
Yes.
Okay, and one of the Senate orientation books. I guess it's nice leather-bound book.
Senate procedures, it says on it.
Senate procedures. So you took that and, along with your wine, and you took selfies of yourself holding a wine glass. In fact, I have it. Oh, here we go. The infamous picture. Okay, and so that's, I don't know if you would like trying to be cute or sexy or what the deal was, but you can understand like some people might be watching this who like, especially the Black Lives Matter riots of the summer before, the summer of 2020. That, people got their cars jacked and stuff like that. People got their businesses looted. They got their cars burned down and broken into and stuff like that. And this would be construed what you did as like trespassing and theft. So you can understand how some people would be a little upset right now that you're like coming on here and, kind of like romanticizing the fact of running for public office. Even though it's your right, don't get me wrong. But still, there's probably a lot of people that are steaming right now saying, you're trying to be a hero or something like that when that wasn't the case at all with you.
Well, I mean, they're confused. And when you don't understand something, you get mad, you get sad. And I mean, I was definitely a little confused myself before I went in there. I didn't really understand, exactly what was happening, but it was jubilant, the overall feeling. And at first, before I was standing back and they started smashing all the doors and breaking all the windows and breaking in. And then I was closer to this side door where this gentleman had broken a window and forced his way in. And there were some policemen that just left. And I was standing next to these younger, they looked like they were in high school. And it was just how we reacted. They all reacted the same thing. We just went, is this really happening? And then I never forget too, looking up at the windows and seeing the politicians looking down, taking pictures. And I just couldn't help but feel good about that. I really did. I'll be honest. I did. I was just like, good. Because the government is supposed to be afraid of the people. When did that stop? And our founding fathers rebelled over a heck of a lot less than what was going on. People are starting to forget already, even though it's only, 6 months ago where you had to wear a mask, where businesses were getting shut down. And it's not an accident that these mandates are getting lifted so close to the election. There's a reason it's happening now. And you could feel it. Like everywhere you go, everyone's starting to get more calm, more relaxed. Like at that riot, that wasn't just the stolen election and people mad about that. It was the mandates too. Nobody was wearing a mask. And it was the definition of when you're supposed to. It was people from all over the country gathering into a small area and committing a crime. Like a mask would have helped. And it was just pent up frustration in these people just letting it out. And it was something. And I don't still fully understand the mob mentality, but there definitely is a huge difference between that and busting into someone's house and stealing a bottle of wine. And I think most people understand there is a difference between it. Maybe they don't. And they're right. And,
Another thing, well, like I said before, it's your right, like any time to run for office, you can run for congressman till they bury you off in a pine box. And you don't necessarily need to have like, I was going to mention like at least a website, a campaign website, which all your opponents do, including Ann Custer. And they also have like a Facebook fan page to their campaigns, which is free. Also, you have like blogger.com is free. WordPress.com is free. I'm just saying that it seems like you're going 100% on the notoriety behind what happened to you from the January 6th insurrection versus trying to do conventional stuff. I mean, I realize like bumper stickers are very expensive. You get like 1,000 of them, it's going to cost you a couple $1,000. Or political
Bob Burns
signs.
has got $500,000. I can't compete with that. You know, all I can compete with is there are, you know, people in office now that and citizens that listen to these people that say that if anybody who went into that building is a terrorist and is a domestic terrorist, is an insurrectionist, is all these things, and there's people that believe this, and so if there's people that honestly believe that this guy can be a terrorist and insurrectionist, then, you know, then maybe I'm capable of being a congressman too. So they're the ones doing the campaigning for me, and you know, that's just what I've been going with so far.
Okay.
But you know, there are plans in the works, so we'll see what comes next.
The plans in the works. Well, you'll have like a 90-day. Well, your sentencing included like a 90-day stint in prison. So before, I take it before the midterm election on November the 8th, Tuesday, November the 8th, which is the midterm election, you'll already have served your 90 days, probably.
Yes, I should be out before the primary.
Oh, you should be out before the primary.
Yes, should be like I should be going any day now, and then I'll be out 90 days later.
Oh, okay. Now, are you gonna vote in the primary election yourself? You're not gonna have to vote early.
No.
Okay. So, I guess, yeah, like I said, that's a thing that that between you and your friends and your relatives or whatever to consider, you know, how you want to have your legacy, so to speak, the legacy of Jason Riddle. Now, I asked you this before in one of our conversations before. You never, you or your parents never went to court and changed your last name to Riddle, did they?
No.
To the best of your knowledge?
No.
Riddle is your surname from birth, at least,
yes.
And probably from your parents and grandparents from far back as whatever.
Yes, I think it's Irish.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, out of all the people I've met before, I worked with a girl from the post office, a letter carrier, female letter carrier, out of the Lawrence, Massachusetts post office, and her name was Joy. And she was named correctly. I don't know if God named her, the parents gave her the name Joy, but I never saw her in a bad mood or anything like that, or a frown on her face. And I told her personally before I left the Lawrence post office, saying, God named you right, or your parents named you right, because you're a joy to be around and to be with. And especially being a letter carrier in Lawrence, Massachusetts, I never had a smile on my face. Are you familiar with Lawrence, Massachusetts?
No, I'm familiar with the post office, and
Amen.
It made that was harder than both boot camps. It was just an experience of a life. I couldn't believe it. I literally went postal. It was 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Just never. They got rid of the policy finally after I quit, of course, and. For the carrier assistant, you know, the runner-ups, and you have to put up with that. They're like, oh, it's only like 2-3 years, then you become a regular. Okay.
Wow. So okay, but I was going to say, getting back to Riddle, you seem to be a man of a lot of mystery and intrigue. Maybe even a James Bond villain. Say, my name's Riddle, Jason Riddle.
Yeah. I like that.
But anyway, okay, so you're in your mid-30s right now. Have you ever had a job comparable to that of a U.S. congressman?
I was the treasurer of my veterans club in college.
Oh, that's pretty close enough.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Raised a bunch of money for homeless. Actually, Trump's involved in this. It came up with the idea senior year. It was I graduated in 2016, and we needed to raise money. I forget the name of it was for homeless veterans. We didn't use Wounded Warrior. But anyways, I dressed up as Donald Trump and sat in a dunk tank. And he wasn't very popular on campus.
Oh, okay.
So we had to dunk the Trump, and you had to come pay money, and you could dunk me. And
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But, okay, so other than your name is a lot of mystery and intrigue, sort of like your congressional candidacy. Let's see. So, in the event you don't make it, I mean, the odd, you got to admit, if Las Vegas was taking odds on this race, you would be the underdog of underdogs.
I thought we were talking about Scott Black earlier. Isn't he the underdog of the underdog?
Oh, that's what, there's another candidate, I guess.
Without
he
a face.
Papers,
yeah,
without a face, and with no contact information whatsoever. I'd have Scott Black on the show if I knew who the heck he was or how to contact them. But anyway, okay, let's say you feel second to last.
All right, thank
You're going to have a
Bronx.
job somewhere, doing something for money, I assume.
I work. I have a job.
Okay, now is that the bartender job?
No, I work in a warehouse.
Are you working a warehouse
Yes,
now?
and I'm in school, and they're helping me with that.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on my master's in public administration at the moment.
Okay. I was going to say, to recoup some money, I had a sudden thought that perhaps, I don't know, well, this was before you were born, in 1981. You weren't even born yet in 1981, right?
No.
So this psychopath named John Hinckley Jr., in fact, it was within a month, I think, of Ronald Reagan's presidency. So Ronald Reagan gets out of his car, his limousine with the Secret Service people and a few of his aides. And this John Hinckley psychopath starts shooting. In fact, I think he did get Ronald Reagan in the arm or chest. But one of his aides named James Brady, he got him in the head. And he obviously had brain damage, like when he talked and he walked. He was in bad shape, but he was alive, but he was in bad shape from that. But long story short, he's been in John Hinckley Jr. has been in a mental institution since 81, and he's scheduled to get out in a couple of months. And I guess, I don't know if it's the Barclay Center in Brooklyn, New York. It's someplace in Brooklyn, New York, that he sold out an arena. Apparently, in the mental institution, they let him play the guitar. And he's pretty good at it. I mean, I don't think he'll get a rock and roll contract anytime soon, but he's pretty good at singing and playing his guitar. And he got a sold out gig right after he gets out of the mental institution. And I was thinking to compensate some of the money you lost, because you're not only serving 90 days, you have to give up a little bit of money in restitution.
Yes, I forget. It was like $700 fine, something like that.
Okay.
Or $750 maybe.
So you should be able to, I had a person on my show a couple of years ago named Grace Jasmine Marino, and she was in sex trafficking, and she wrote a book about her experience through Amazon.com. And she was saying that's a lot cheaper than going to someplace like Simon & Schuster, where they would ask for like $25,000 or something ridiculous up front to publish a book. I was going to say, even better than running for Congress or president or whatever you want to run, you've got a story to tell. I think you would have an interesting book. And how many insurrection people that were actually arrested and prison for the January 6th insurrection are writing books? You might be the only one.
Perhaps.
So your book, and then Stephen Colbert would look at that and says, wow, you better have this Jason Riddle on my show now.
I actually have tickets to Stephen Colbert on May 2nd. If I'm still free to go. it got approved. I signed up to get tickets, and they came. So I don't know if like they saw my name.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he'll recognize me. I mean, he talks about different people every day. I don't even think he'd recognize me, to be honest with you. I didn't get invited to the show. I bought tickets to watch the show.
Yeah.
On May 2nd. I contacted the people, probation, asked if I can go, and they said yes. So who knows? Maybe he'll see me. Maybe I could.
Is it in New York or Los Angeles, his show?
New York?
Oh, so that's even better.
Yes.
That's even better. But I think you've got a story to tell. And I don't know if you're going to make the Amazon bestseller list or the New York Times bestseller list, but I think it'll be a popular book as far as how long the January 6th insurrection is going to be popular.
Yeah.
Maybe if the Republicans wipe out the Democrats in the midterm election, maybe the January 6th thing will be ancient history.
I don't know if the story's done yet. I mean, there's definitely people that are just very involved, and it's still getting talked about. And we're spending so much time on little people like me. I mean, just my incarceration alone is going to cost $10,000. How much did they put into the prosecution, to the public defender? Because I walked in and out with a book. Like, I mean, I would have helped them. I would just say, just send me to jail. That's what I said to the FBI when they showed up. You want to just send me to jail now? Let's just get it over with. But I just think they're drawing it out.
That's what that's one thing we talked about when we corresponded with each other. There's a thing called a fair and speedy trial. In fact, the murderer O.J. Simpson, did you hear of O.J. Simpson from the football player? Okay, but anyway, he was entitled to a fair and speedy trial, and by gosh, his lawyers made sure he got one. I'm surprised your lawyer didn't push for a speedy trial in your case. If you just want to get it over with and done with, then milked out for...
I had asked him to take his time. I thought public opinion would die down, and then therefore maybe the sentencing would be less. But I mean, people seem just as heated about it now as they did last year. So it didn't end up... I mean... I didn't keep asking him to take his time. I did initially, but after a while, you're like, I just want to get this over with, and it didn't really seem to matter. I mean, there's some people who haven't even entered their plea deals yet, and there's some people who've been held since the day of.
And that's another thing. Like the guy. In fact, I have a picture of him too. The guy with the Viking helmet. I took a thing of. In fact, I got his name too. He was known as the Face, Jacob Anthony Chansley, a.k.a. Jake Angeli, or whatever. But anyway, maybe I heard wrong, that he was sentenced like, I don't know, 4 years?
Something like that, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
The end of next year is when he'll get out. December.
No, did he actually hurt somebody, or... I don't think he did. He was just acting like an idiot.
That's the thing. They seem to go after people who, that's part of the reason I got into 90 days was for going on interviews. And it seems whoever gets more attention, the more time you get. And after the fact too. And that was one thing that confused me in my sentencing is all I talked about is interviews. You did this interview, you did this, you did that. Shows a lack of remorse. They barely talked about the crime. And that the whole point of putting someone in jail is to stop it from happening again and public safety. Like, I am a lot angrier now than I was before then. I'm not saying I'm going to go commit a crime, but it's the only difference in my life, the only change that was made is if I see a riot, I'm not going to go in the building. Do we really? And so this 90 days was clearly just I don't like you, so here's an extra 90 days for going and doing interviews. And I think it's a little petty, and I don't think it's what our justice system is supposed to be about. But.
Okay. I was going to say that, hypothetically speaking, to give like Ann Custer, I mean, if you win the primary on September 13th, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be September 13th. You win that primary, you go up against Ann Custer. I think would be to Ann Custer's advantage to get you out of jail, get you out of prison on like good behavior. Say the warden can't guarantee you won't get COVID while you're in prison. So they let you out early, like June 1st, so you can make that debate in Bethlehem, New Hampshire on the June 13th. I think if you were in that debate against your three opponents in the Republican primary, I think you would suck all the oxygen out of the room and have the whole debate focus on the January 6th insurrection. And as long as you're not talking about Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is like the noose around Ann Custer's neck at this point. If you can make people believe that Donald Trump is still the
Thank you for having me. Sorry, go ahead.
is still the thing, then I think if she let you out of jail and you came in and you sucked all the oxygen out and made it a debate on January 6th, I think she would in essence have won the debate and maybe even get you to win the primary. And I think, did you or somebody else mention that Ann Custer used you and your situation in a fundraiser ad?
Yes, after the interview with Catherine Underwood, where I don't even know what I'm talking about and I look like an idiot, and Ann Custer puts out this advertisement with the picture of me here and saying, "This man's coming for Ann Custer's seat. We need money now. Stop him now. Stop him now." Then I register to run for Congress. I actually get put on the ticket. She stopped. I don't think she thought I was really going to run. So, and now that she sees I'm actually running.
Oh, no more campaign. Yeah. I tried looking on like Google Images. I couldn't find that thing. So maybe she killed it or had her people kill it.
I have it. I could send it to you.
Oh, okay. Okay. But that was funny. But I don't know. It just seems like one big issue you got. Maybe I should start talking about your issues that you had mentioned on your Facebook page. Is that if elected, if successful, you're going to try and push for marijuana to be legalized in New Hampshire, or something to that effect?
Yes.
So what's your love? I mean, do you think like states like Colorado, states like Washington have been successful legalizing marijuana?
Yes, also, you got to look at where we're at too. We're surrounded by states where it's legal. It's from here, it's not even, 40 minutes to get to Massachusetts? Not even. Yeah. So, I mean, we're just losing all this money, and I'm watching our governor just keep us in the Stone Age, just rolling my eyes like, why? Sometimes you got to put up the white flag. I understand the fundamental of being against marijuana, and that's fine, but if your citizens are using it no matter what, like you're taking the money and you're giving it to drug dealers, or you're giving it to Vermont. And this is it's also adding to the people, and talk about people that shouldn't be going to prison. I don't think we should be putting people in prison for marijuana. People go to prison because of marijuana. And that's a bipartisan issue. We're trying to lower our prison population, and that's just one of a key issue I really would like to address in office.
Okay, I just thought of a question I was going to ask before. I just thought of it now. As far as if you didn't want to write a book, let's say hypothetically, you had a thing on YouTube where you had a stint as a stand-up comic. I don't know how successful. You were 18 at the time, yeah, and a lot of vulgarity.
Yes, my friend was doing a stand-up show, and that was his mom filming it, and they, spur of the moment, do you want to go up there open mic night? And I said, sure. And I went up there and cracked a few jokes and probably swore a little too much. Yes. And I don't, for an 18-year-old, I don't think I did that bad of a job. Especially because I had no planning or anything. And that was my career in comedy. That one time, it came up recently. Because I was, looking up YouTube videos,
and your
working on Excel, and it shows an alert. I didn't even know you can get an alert from YouTube, and I click on it, and there's this old YouTube video of mine from back in 2006 or 7, and people are commenting on it. This is the guy that stormed the Capitol, and it's not even funny. I'm like, I was 18 years old. That was 2007. These people, they come, they find you. The letters are showing up at my house.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this too. It's just, you can try and run and hide from it. I'm more of a person, I don't take things lying down. I like to fight back, and that's.
I was just saying that. Okay, and the fact that you weren't that good, you substitute for funny, you made up in vulgarity, especially in that particular video. But if you write some comedy skits, comedy material of your experience in the January 6th insurrection, you're being in the military, or the court system, or the election, or what the election outcome and what you experienced in that. And wasn't it also mentioned that you were, in your experiences, that you were once a correction officer?
Yes.
In a prison? So you'll live life from both sides now.
I will.
As a prisoner and a correction officer. There's a ton of comic material.
I know.
And being in prison for 90 days, you're going to have a lot of free time on your hands. You could take like a notebook, an empty notebook, and write like a diary.
It sounded like a comedy skit when it was happening in the ride. I was drinking the wine, and this police officer came in, and he had a baton, and he started screaming at everyone. He's like, "Get out of here! Get out of here! Get it!" And he pointed at me, and I had the wine, and he went, "Chug that and get out of here!" And I told the FBI, I'm like, so I chugged it, and I got out of there.
Oh, wow.
It was nice of the police officer to let me finish before I left.
Yeah. But I mean, to make money for yourself, you could go on to the comedy clubs. I don't know if there's any popular ones, like in the Boston area, New Hampshire, whatever. And I think they would hire you because you have that shtick. You have a unique shtick that no other comedians have, that you can use and talk about. And even if you swear most of the time, people would want to go up there and get a selfie with you or something like that.
Perhaps.
And they'd pay to go to the show. I think, you have a right to make money, recoup some of your money after you get out of prison. That's for sure.
I like using humor, right? Especially when I was in corrections. I remember my favorite thing to say to mostly when people come to jail, they tend to be intoxicated or coming off some sort of narcotic or something. And one thing I always got a laugh out of a new inmate every single time was when I came up to him and I'd go, "You look exactly how I feel right now." And I get a laugh out of them every time. And it just makes everything a lot, you start off with a joke, it lightens the mood, and it just makes life a lot easier on the inside of, at least as an employee. I don't know how it's going to go over. Maybe as an inmate, maybe I should keep my opinions to myself. We'll find out.
Yeah. But I'm just food for thought that you could use that 90 days, you write a diary with open notebook paper and either a book or a comedy skit. I think, you'll be as good as John Hinckley Jr. playing a sold-out Barclays Stadium in Brooklyn.
I should come up with a better. Right now, I only have one goal. It's to be able to do 100 push-ups straight before I get out. That's my goal right now.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
It's good to set goals. Yeah, maybe I should set a writing goal too or something. Obviously, I don't have a lot of books. That's the plan too.
Okay. So anyway, getting to the by the way, did you ever ask your lawyer what do they mean when they say you're out on good behavior? How does a prisoner get out on good behavior?
My lawyer, he's a federal public defender, and he said he's not used to dealing with things like this because usually the federal level doesn't deal with someone drinking some wine and going where he shouldn't, taking a book. Most people he deals with get sentenced to years and years in prison. So it's all new ground to him, and he didn't seem too confident about any shape or form of being able to get out any earlier than the 90 days. And so most of the people that Jenna Ryan, she ended up serving 60 days and she had to do the whole thing. And I don't think I might qualify for some sort of work release I remember when I was working at the jail, there was people that can leave jail to go to work and then they come back to jail at night. I don't know if I'll qualify for something like that.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Okay, so now we're going to get to the issues, which probably people wonder, if you're running for a U.S. Congressman, you're going to have some kind of stance on the issues. How do you feel about teachers in public schools teaching our youngsters gender identity?
It seems like Florida, that bill they're coming up with is more of a preemptive and necessary measure. Because I substitute taught in New Hampshire, and I'll never forget the history teacher bringing up women's rights, and he said that women used to not be allowed to vote, used not to be allowed to do this, do that, and there was a tutor sitting in the back, and she had her arms crossed, and she went like a typical Republican housewife, and she said that, and no one said anything. She just said that to all these kids, and the kids just took it as fact. And now they all think that you're not allowed to, that Republican women aren't allowed to vote, aren't allowed to do this. And there's this liberal undertone that exists in the schools, and they just cram it down the students' throats. And they're not objective by any means. We shouldn't, I'm gay, I'm married to a man. I wasn't thinking about that when I was a kid. I was thinking about playing and being a kid, and that's what we should be worrying about. We shouldn't be talking about sex and LGBTQSP whatever. That's if they want to learn about that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we don't need it doesn't need to be in the teacher's plan book, especially at kindergarten age and all these other younger ages where it's crazy.
And what's this stuff about 7, 8-year-olds who, like, if they're a boy, they go to their teacher or something like that, I want to become a girl, or vice versa. They're not mature enough to make a decision how cool it would be to be a girl if you're a boy, or vice versa. And then you cut off the parts and stuff like that, reconstruct the parts, you're screwed, you're stuck.
And transgender is trying to turn the transgender movement's trying to turn biology into some sort of civil right movement, and it's not. Biology is biology. You have what makes you you, and I have what makes me me. And there seems to be this underlying tone that you to just state facts now are becoming insulting. It's ridiculous, and and we shouldn't be having children make permanent decisions at such a young age, and it's
yeah, I hear you.
It's frustrating.
I hear you. So, since Joe Biden has been elected January 20th of a couple of weeks after the insurrection, have you noticed or heard of anything about more drug overdoses in New Hampshire, particularly on people on fentanyl, with the opening of the borders and more of the drugs coming in?
It's always been such a bad problem in New Hampshire. There's the fentanyl and the heroin, and it just seems. I used to carry a list when I was a correctional officer of the inmates that, because whenever an inmate died, it was like high school. They all know each other, and they would all be upset, and we'd have to adjust. And it was like 4 pages every couple of weeks. Someone who I knew died from it'd be right after they get out of jail too. They're all happy, getting a new job, ready to go. 2 weeks later, dead, because they thought they had some cocaine or some heroin. It actually had fentanyl in it, and it's awful.
Oh wow. So let's see. No, I guess there've been these horror stories coming out that President Biden is flying illegal aliens to different parts of the country so they can settle and be a burden to that particular state. To the best of your knowledge, have you heard anything that New Hampshire has gotten any of these illegal aliens since Biden's been inaugurated?
I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, I know it's a lot easier for, especially people that are, for open borders. It's a lot easier to be for open borders when you're so close to the Canadian one. You don't know what it's like to live down there, where all the, the drugs are flowing through and all the drug violence is, and whether there's attempts to try to spread it out. I just think Trump had the right idea. I think we should continue, finish the wall and border patrol, and come on in here for legally.
Now, I guess one of my last questions here. We've been rifling through these pretty quickly. Joe Biden. We mentioned a little bit about him earlier. There's been a lot of talk and murmuring. Not as much as when the last couple of years of Trump's administration, although there was no evidence, because mentally speaking, he may be like in his late 70s. Donald Trump's as sharp as a tack. And Joe Biden, not so much. And I guess the reporters don't want to talk about it because they're mostly liberal reporters, and they want to make sure, ignoring it might make it go away. But that's
anything Trump said or did too. They're down their throats, accusing him of God only knows what. And, meanwhile, Biden's walking around shaking hands with air.
Do you think it might be time to support like some kind of legislation, I should say, on making the president of the United States an age limit of, let's say, if you're over 75 years old, you cannot run for president anymore? Or having him have what they call a cognitive test.
I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened, though. Ronald Reagan had dementia in his final years. Woodrow Wilson had the stroke, and his wife ran the country. We didn't do anything then, and now here we are, 2022, cameras everywhere. You see all the evidence, everyone to see that there's something wrong, and he becomes this figurehead. And you know what? If that's what the people want, then
I know.
They didn't want it, though.
And the problem is he picked as his vice president someone, she may not have dementia or Alzheimer's or anything like that, but she's just not liked. They don't really she doesn't have that personality of people, rallying around her or anything like that. Look at how many people have quit her administration, her department there. She's had 13 or 14 people leaving her department already. That's ridiculous.
Well, if Biden could just hang in there 2 more years. I mean, we don't even know who's really running the country, though. Is it Kamala Harris? Is it someone who works for Biden, someone related to Biden? Woodrow Wilson, it was his wife. She answered the phone. She made the meetings. She was technically our first female president. Oh.
Good point. Okay. Wow. So we really plowed through this quicker than I figured. But so I would just say Jason, is there anything that we've talked about in the past 50 minutes or so that you'd like to elaborate on, or something we haven't talked about which you'd like to bring up at this time?
Part of the reason I'm also doing this is just for the people that were involved in the riot. I put my face out there, so I can't turn around and act like a victim and be mad that people are coming after me and sending me letters and making comments, things like that. But there are people that went into that building and walked out, and that's all they did. They walked in and out, and now they have people threatening their lives, politicians calling them terrorists. They've had their relationships ruined. They've had to move. Like these are people just like you and me. And
lost their jobs.
Yes, and they're under attack. And it's hard to see it. It's almost like after 9/11 when we lost all our civil liberties in the airport. 9/11 happened. Now you're getting fondled at the airport. Get used to it. And right now we are taking a group of people and we're using the riot as an excuse to hold people in jail without charging them, to keep people in solitary confinement. And it's a slippery slope. And I'm hoping I want to take part in stopping it. I'm hoping there's people in D.C. that will put an end to it, and that will be definitely something part of why I'm here and why I'm doing this, along with other obviously issues, legalizing marijuana and strengthening our borders, and also what's with this continuous sessions in Congress. Can we break it down? That's another thing. I want to cut the pay in half. I know that'll make me popular in Congress. Cut their pay in half. Drop it down to a 5-month session instead of a continuous session in Congress. Just cut their pay and send them home. Our government's just getting too strong, too powerful. That you're calling that an insurrection because a couple thousand people broke some windows. It's not going to happen. The government's not going anywhere. It's not getting toppled by a bunch of right-wing vandals with zip ties. The only way to do it is at the ballots, is by voting. And,
yeah. So one thing, usually when I have a candidate that has a campaign website, I mention that a couple times, but you're going with an email address, riddle me this Congress@yahoo.com.
That's it.
So I guess, so if they want to send you money, I guess they have to email you first and ask, where do you send the check or PayPal? Or
Facebook's an easy way to get a hold of me. I got my profile right there. And
okay.
yeah, a lot of strangers like to reach out to me on that.
Oh, okay. I noticed these, well, that seems to be a popular name too. There's a lot of people around the country named Jason Riddle.
Yes, is some sort of Mormon like minister or something on Twitter that comes up whenever you type in Jason Riddle. You just see there's some Mormon teachings and me running for Congress. No.
Unbelievable. So I wish you the best of luck. One thing I noticed from the pictures I had, most of which I didn't get to use, this picture I could have sworn is with President Trump.
Yeah.
But you told me today earlier that was a Trump impersonator?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So obviously, well, then again, he did speak at the White House on January 6th. That
he was at the Washington Monument.
Oh, the Washington Monument. And then you guys, well, then again, he must have been, he had to have been, Trump himself had to have been protected by Secret Service agents.
He said he wanted to walk to the Capitol building, but they wouldn't let him.
Okay.
He also was trying to tell everybody to go home and stop when Twitter and Facebook shut him down.
Yeah.
Which is...
So that's one more thing. We got a couple more minutes. I'm sure you're happy over the latest Twitter thing.
Free speech.
So hopefully Facebook and YouTube, and what else? Facebook, YouTube, and a handful of others will follow suit.
That'd be nice.
So they'll give us something to look forward to. So I can't think of anything else that we've talked about or any other questions, because we kind of rifled through them in quick fashion. So I would just say, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode of Frankly Speaking, please email Jason Riddle here at riddlemethiscongress@yahoo.com, and I'm sure he'll correspond with you, have some interesting correspondence, or look up his Facebook page, and we'll go from there. And I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and please join me for another episode of Frankly Speaking. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.